Hello everyone, my name's Cliff and welcome back to my channel. This is Cliff's Dark Gems. Today I'm going to be doing the King of Horror, Stephen King tag. And this was created by Jess Bookgirl and I was tagged by Jess. And I have to say I'm absolutely delighted because Stephen King is my favorite author. So yeah, let's get going. Stay tuned. Okay, this tag is made up of 18 prompts, so let's get going. Prompt number 1. How did you get into reading Stephen King? Well, when I was a young teen, you're talking about 13, 14, maybe 15, I loved fantasy. I absolutely devoured anything I could get my hands on, and that included some quite dark stuff as well. And then I became intrigued by the horror genre, and I happened to get a copy of Stephen King, It. And I remember absolutely devouring this book. At night time when I was supposed to be asleep, I had a torch, I put the blanket over my head, and I finished this huge thing in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, which is not bad for a 14-year-old. So yeah, that's Stephen King, It. And the second question, what was the first Stephen King book you read? Yeah, Stephen King, It. Okay, prompt number 3 says, have you read a Stephen King book published the year you were born? I was born in 1970, and no, there wasn't a book published then, but I found it kind of interesting that his first published book was in 1974, and that was Carrie. And in 1966 and 1967, when he was still a student, he wrote The Long Walk. So I kind of sit nice and sort of in the middle between those two. Okay, question number 4. Which of his books do you prefer to collect? Hardcover editions, paperbacks, or it doesn't really matter to you? Well, obviously I love his hardcovers, but at the moment anything goes. Anything that I can get from him, I will. He's the kind of author that if I see a book by him, especially one that I don't own, then I'll just buy it. So yeah, anything goes for that one. Question number 5. How many of his books are on your bookshelf? Okay, what I think that means is how many books do you own in your library? Because this is not my only bookshelf, although I've tried to put most of my Stephen King there now. I did count 68. And I know that I had more previously before we moved, but also since the beginning of the year we've actually been kind of adding to the collection as well. And also bearing in mind that some of them are duplicates, and I've got 1 or 2 graphic novels as well. So yeah, that's about 68. And yeah, question number 6. Stephen King is known for his long and gory novels. Which of his novels was tough for you to read? Okay, this is not so much gore. Yes, this was a kind of bloody book. But gore doesn't bother me. But this book was very, very dark. And that was Pet Sematary. Now, unfortunately, that is one of my favorite books that I don't own anymore. I'm definitely going to make amends as soon as I can. But yeah, it was so dark, the subject matter, and it's about grief and it's about loss, and it was a very uncomfortable read, to be honest, and kind of sad, even though it's a horror. So yeah, that was difficult to get through. Not that I really struggled in terms of Stephen King, but it was a difficult subject matter, and yeah, that's Pet Sematary. Okay, question number 7. Have you DNF'd a Stephen King book? I did DNF 2. I DNF'd Doomakey, but fortunately I read it this year. I completed it. One book that I DNF'd that I have not completed yet, but I plan to, I consider it more shelved, is Under the Dome. And I'm determined to read everything that this man has written. 52 books in, and I think he's published something like 90 plus, so I've got a long way to go, but I'm going to read one every single month. Okay, so maybe by the year 2026 I might have finished everything he's ever written, or 27. Or I'm thinking that maybe when I'm closer, I'm going to start reading 2 or 3 a month instead of just one. So yeah, do me key. Have you read his books in publication order? No, I don't bother with that. Although what I'd like to do, and I've been watching another booktuber called Dave Does King, I think, or no, it might be someone else, and he's basically reading the entire Gunslinger, Dark Tower series, and all the books that have connection with that in order. So if I have time before I die, I might like to do that, and I might like to read the entire Dark Tower series again, because that was just magical. But in terms of any other books, I get what I can get right now. Okay, what Stephen King books would you like to read but haven't read yet? As I said, I've read 52. That includes short story collections, novels, and a couple of non-fiction as well. There's a long way to go. So as long as I read one a month, I'd like to get there eventually. I did get a gift from my wife, End of Watch, and I think Finders Keepers, which is number 2 and 3 in the series, but I need to find number 1, because I'm dying to get to this series as well, so that eventually I can read Holly. I'm also looking to read, what did I say here, If It Bleeds, The Outsider. There's a number of books that I still want to read. Okay, now we're getting to number 10. Name a book he has written that other people liked but you didn't. Okay, that's an easy one for me. There are not many books that Stephen King has written that were total failures. But I did not enjoy The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. And I think the reason that I did not enjoy this is because I know next to nothing about basketball. And a huge part of this book was her, in her head, this imaginary thing, with not a basketball, sorry, baseball. I know next to nothing about baseball as a South African. Also the story itself, a girl gets lost in the woods, it was okay. But just the endless going on about baseball, it just did not appeal to me. So yeah, it's A Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. Prompt number 11. Name a book of his you think is underrated. Now, everyone's top 10 is going to be different. Even top 20. Everyone has got a different view about Stephen King's best books and his worst books. But I think one that is underrated in my opinion, and maybe it's because I do kind of enjoy fantasy, is Peter Straub and Stephen King, The Talisman. Now, I don't know, this is kind of fantastical, about a boy travelling over this landscape, an alternative universe. I found it magical. Black House, the second part, not so much, but I really, really enjoyed this book. The second one is, and this is either I think you love it or hate it, and that is The Institute. And I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with Stranger Things, but I find a lot of people talk about this book in the same breath as Stranger Things. Pretty sure this came before, and I just love how Stephen King writes about kids. And the kids in this are just phenomenal. And I found it an absolutely chilling, terrifying tale. This whole idea about the front half and the back half and what these kids go through at this institute is, for me, downright terrifying. So yeah, I think this is pretty underrated as well. Right, let's just find some space there. Question number 12. This is a good one. Creepy characters. Which Stephen King characters would you like to have dinner with? Right, the first thing that came into my mind when I'm thinking of the Dark Tower is Roland and his quartet. If I have to choose only one, then it would be Roland. Just such an interesting character. And also, I loved it, and I loved the Losers Club. So it would be kind of quite cool to have dinner with them, being a loser. Losers Club, yes please. And I thought further, what about a villain? If I was completely safe, and there's no way, this would be more like dinner and a show. But if this creature could not get at me, but I could watch it through, never mind bulletproof glass, but just, I would be invulnerable, then it would be Pennywise. That could be kind of entertaining, dinner and a show. Okay, next up we got question number 13. Has Stephen King inspired you to start reading and writing? Let's just say he was definitely, I think, what you would call my gateway drug into horror. He basically started my love for horror. My favorite author. I never looked back. In terms of writing, I've always kind of wanted to write, and I can see myself this year, even in the next couple of months, trying to start writing things down again. My wife and I talk about doing a novel together, or stories together, but I just find at the moment that I'm so into booktube and talking about books that I don't really want to expend all that energy on writing as well. Although, yeah, I might give it a go. Number 14. If you were able to meet Stephen King, what would you say? Stephen King once said, when he was asked about himself, I really have the heart of a small boy. I keep it in a jar on my desk. I would like to ask him what else is in his desk, what else is in his office, in his home. Not like being a stalker or anything, invading his privacy, but I want to know what interesting things Stephen King has in his house. So yeah, I think that's something that really interests me, because I don't think he lets people in his house. Might be wrong, but I wouldn't. It's a privacy issue. But he must have some very interesting stuff that he could show me. Right, next one. Have you ever been to Bangor, Maine? No. I've visited the US just once when I was very young with my family to visit family, and we went to Arizona, Grand Canyon and Vegas, which was a lot of fun. But yeah, that's the only time I've ever been to the US. 16. Which do you prefer more, his books or movies? Definitely his books, no questions asked. Number 17. Name your favorite Stephen King movies. Okay, I can think of three off the top. Stand By Me, based on The Body, short story or novella. The Shawshank Redemption, based on the short story Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption. And The Shining. So those are three off the top of my head. And then 18, tag some people. Now, I wanted to think carefully about this, because first of all, I wanted to think, is this person a King fan? And do they do tags? Or a little bit of both, and or. And remember, you don't have to do this tag, but yeah, it'd be great if you did. I tag Holly at Crooks Books, Dave Cobain, Alex Unabridged, and David's Book Reviews. And of course, anyone else that wants to do this tag is tag your it. Right, everyone. So that's the King of Horror Stephen King tag. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, please be sure to like and subscribe. And keep those pages turning. Take care of yourselves and cheers.